4. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the EG Pot Thunder with your boy, the young light-skinned Keith Sweat. And to my left, my girl Maddie, the host of Peel Back, brought to you by Fight Bananas. Also, MMA color commentator, on-air radio host, baby.
It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. So, so Maddie on air, Instagram name. Make sure you follow her on Instagram. Thank you for coming by the EG Pot of Thunder.
Thank you for having me. I'm so pumped.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a good time. You know what I was thinking about when I was writing your stuff down? When you're like Maddie on air.
Yeah.
I got Instagram now, like social media. Isn't that funny how like your like social like username like indicates what you do now, like fitness by Maddie or
right. It becomes your identity.
Really?
It's like, oh, you're Maddie on air. I'm like, well, I'm Maddie Levine, but I'll take Maddie on air. That's cool.
Really is, because funny. My brother's name in high school was like Brandon Honcho, and everybody would call him Honcho. I'm like, what? Why? Because Instagram name.
Right.
If it wasn't Maddie on air, what would it be now? Would it
if I were to change my Instagram handle?
Yeah.
Damn.
Would it be like ass kicked by Maddie?
It'd be like Maddie head kicks or something like that. I don't know.
Maddie head kicks.
Or like,
I think meant like sneaker wise.
Oh no, I'm talking like MMA head kicks. I'm talking like whooping your ass. I don't know. That's a great question. I kind of wish I stuck with just my name though. You know, like Maddie.Levine or something like that. That way people would be like, oh, that's Maddie Levine. Instead of being like, oh, that's Maddie on air.
Yeah, no, for sure. But Maddie on air, those kind of like, now it's like your gimmick. Like you're talking about like, you know, personas and stuff like that. So being a new like color commentator and on air radio host, do you think like just for that too, like do you need a persona as well behind the mic?
Well, you make a good point, because now that I'm thinking back on when I started with my radio career and that sort of thing, I started at a country radio station and I made my Instagram name Maddie Cat Radio or something like that. And I don't even remember what it was, because it was for cat country. And everybody would always call me Maddie Cat. And I hated it. I hated it so much. It was terrible. And so everybody said, oh my God, that's Maddie Cat. Like, it's so nice to meet you. And I was like, wow, this is terrible.
You're like, no, it's Maddie, motherfucker.
Quickly changed that as we progressed in my career. But when it comes to a persona on air, I think people get a little carried away with that. Like, I think the more genuine you are, the more people are going to be attracted to you and your content in general. I think when you have a personality that's given to you, you do have to heighten it for the cameras, for the production, whatever. But for me, I think it is extremely obvious when somebody is trying to push a character that isn't them. You know, like, I mean, I'm in the MMA world, so the first person I think of is Conor McGregor, who's extremely good at building up this character. But you can tell, like,
oh, for sure,
that's him. That's just like straight up him,
100%.
You know? Whereas like there's other people where you're just like, dude,
trying too hard.
Yeah,
bro.
Like this isn't working for you, buddy. So as I progressed with my career, I definitely just became more and more myself. And I think people have noticed that and have gravitated towards that. So
you think it's like yourself turned up to like 100. Like it's
right.
You, but
Like keep it you, but like emphasize what makes you you. So I tend to be a little funny.
Love it.
At least I try to think so. So like, you know, I'll heighten my funniness or like my sassiness or something. But yeah, I think just stay genuine.
Oh, that definitely for sure. Because you could definitely tell when someone's faking it.
Yeah.
And like for what? You're going to blow up for one video and now that's like your persona.
Right.
Now you need to do that every single time. Like you said, like with Conor, he doesn't need to try because that's him every single time. You know, and but you think that's one thing where MMA, you said now you're a color commentator for MMA. Do you think that's one thing where it lacks compared to like a WWE where, you know, WWE is obviously all scripted, but they can plan their outcomes. They know what they're doing. Obviously, you need to make in WWE, you need to have the personality. Sometimes, you know, and I feel like in MMA, Conor has it. There's like a few people who have it. But then, you know, they don't really... some people get maybe too offended. They don't get into it as much as they know they would in WWE because they know it's all script. They don't mean it. Do you think sometimes MMA needs more Conors in the industry?
I think MMA does have a lot of quote unquote Conors. And I think it is just as important to create a branding around yourself with MMA. And I think a lot of fighters are doing that. And I think Conor certainly paved the way of like, this is what you need to do to get to the next level. Sean O'Malley comes to mind. He's definitely somebody like Conor McGregor who is able to create this brand behind him that allows him to get more pay-per-views, get some more fights. And I think character building is something that MMA fighters have gravitated towards. Obviously, they're not throwing on makeup and crazy outfits like the WWE, but they're certainly stirring up drama. They're certainly trying to stand out among the rest. And it's becoming more evident that the more that you can stand out and be different and maybe be controversial, the more fights you get.
Yeah.
Right or wrong, that's just how it is.
Definitely how it is. They gotta stick with the times. Someone I think they're doing it well. Like in the boxing world now is definitely like Jake Paul. I mean,
yeah.
I told your husband on the last podcast, Ross, that and I tuned into Jake Paul's event just because of what he's been doing, the controversy he starts, him and Logan, and I'd rather, to be honest, I'm a novice really with MMA and UFC, like obviously UFC and Bellator MMA
right.
as a general. And I'd rather tune in to watch one of them fight, like their fights, their shows, just because what they're bringing to the show.
Listen, if you don't like Jake Paul or Logan Paul, I get it, but you have to respect them.
Yeah.
They freaking went from YouTube videos in their apartment or their mom's basement or whatever the fuck they were doing, and they became the most well-known people probably in the nation and in like the world, like they went from nothing to everything because they figured out the formula. They figured out that if they're outlandish and they're crazy and they do all these weird things and they're going to get far, and they got there. So you can hate on your couch watching them, but you're still watching. And I think that's like the point that a lot of MMA fighters and a lot of maybe influencers are starting to understand is like, okay, well, you might not like me, but you're watching me, so thanks for the paycheck.
100%. Those YouTube are the commentators are the worst amongst every social media.
Yeah,
they on the shorts and on the YouTube videos, they'll be coming at me, but I'm like, you know what, bro? You are watching. You are watching. So I appreciate you.
Watching.
Yeah, bro, so I appreciate you. I love the haters as well. And I've heard this amongst a lot of like WWE podcasts, stuff like that. You rather, if you're getting booed or cheered, that's good. It's when you're getting no response. That's when it's bad.
That's when you're boring as fuck. 100%. Like at least you're getting like, if somebody's booing at you, like that means that they're invested in you. It means they're probably like a frenemy. Like they've been following your career and now they hate you. And it's like, all right, hate me. Like I'm still up here and you're down there.
Exactly. And we're talking about, the personas and, the gimmicks nowadays. I had a question for you actually that came amongst, and it was someone else had the question too amongst the Instagram post where, is there like a dress code in like MMA? Like I feel like even when the fighters come in, they're just wearing sweats. So like being a color commentator and stuff like that, is like dress or impress? Are you going out and buying clothes? Is it like a business casual type of thing?
So as far as what I'm wearing?
Yeah.
So as a color commentator, it really depends on the organization, I would say. But 9 times out of 10, I'm trying to look good, okay? I'm trying to look nice. I'm trying to I got the cameras in my face, and as a color commentator, yeah, exactly. As a color commentator, you're on a mic and it's typically just my voice, but there are those spots in the broadcast where they'll go to us in the booth, or I have to get into the cage and interview the winner or something like that. So I'm not trying to look like a bum. I'm not trying to be wearing my sweats and my, sweatshirt or whatever. Like
tech out there.
I usually use fight night as an excuse to go shopping. So yeah, to answer that question, I'm usually dressed pretty well.
Yeah. So Ross, you can't get mad when she spends $1,000 at Saks Fifth.
That's what I'm saying. I deserve it.
And plus, it's a business write-off, right? It's a business write-off.
It's a business expense.
Exactly. Well, technically, it really is.
It really is.
It really is. So just to wrap back to your comment you said earlier, you said kicks. Are you into sneakers at all or no? I was about to ask you a million questions.
I'm not, what do they call it? Sneakerhead? Yeah. I mean, I appreciate a good shoe. I do. But I don't really know much about them. Just bought some Pumas the other day. They're pretty fresh. Yeah, I'm wearing my Nike Metcons today.
Also comfortable.
But as far as that, sorry, man. That's as far as my shoe knowledge goes.
Yeah, as far as the shoe knowledge goes, But people are in here for, that's not part of the journey, but we'll find out the journey right now because I've heard from, I actually took Ross's class this morning. Shout out to Ross. Make sure you tune into him at Core Fitness. He said to bring that up to Maddie on the podcast, actually, that I took his class. She was like, oh, she's sleeping right now.
Hell yeah, I'm sleeping. Are you kidding me? I wake up. We poke at each other all the time, but I work on a morning show. I have to get to the radio station for like 5:15 a.m. and I do the show from 5:30 to 10. So yeah, I'm not going to go to your boxing class at 6 in the morning. Not happening, bro.
Oh, plus, we'll get back to your journey in 2 seconds, but just to touch upon it real quick. You were sleeping because you guys were at Encore last night until like 12 o'clock. That's where it ended, Ross said. And we pulled up the fight right here. Here is the fight card. So, this is what you do. I know you guys were there yesterday. So you guys want to tell the fans right here what they missed and what fight stood out to you yesterday?
Oh, sure. So yeah, last night was a trip. It was at Combat Zone at the Encore in Boston. And it was something it's called Dana White's Looking for a Fight. And for those that might not know what the show is, basically Dana White and his two friends, Dean Thomas and Matt Serra, they traveled the country looking for the best top talent. So they'll go to local promotions, watch these shows, and then hand out a potential contract to somebody that stood out. So Dana was there last night. Dean Thomas, Matt Serra sitting front row and center. And so, of course, I had to be there because, I hope Dana will be my boss one day. Right. So, so I was there doing some work for an MMA organization called Fight Bananas. And the fights were awesome. Everybody knew that Dana was there and that they could potentially become a UFC fighter at the end of the night. So everybody was giving it their best. But I would say the main event, Connor Matthews, definitely stood out amongst a lot of them. You might recognize the name if you're an MMA fan. He was on the Contender Series at one point. Unfortunately, he did lose. But honestly, I think that loss saved him in a lot of ways. He was undefeated before that. And I always say to anybody in the martial arts world or really in life, your loss will teach you the most out of any win. Usually, there's a lot of things that you can learn from a loss. So he went right back to the drawing board last night, crushed it, got a rear naked choke in the first round. And I have a feeling Dana was impressed by that. There's another name, Yuri Panvarov, the Russian polar bear.
Hey.
Side note, he's got the best fan base. He's got this thing with he's called the Russian polar bear, and he wears a polar bear jacket, and it literally looks like a polar bear, and all of his fans wear it. So when he walks out, there is just a crowd of polar bears let's go, and it is so lit. He did phenomenal. So I do know who potentially got contracts, but I am sworn to secrecy, so I cannot say it. But
when you come back with Ross next time, we'll
so I will say that there will be some New England talent coming soon, and that's all I can say.
Hey, love to hear it. And that's what you did last night. And we're talking about the journey of everybody in that combat zone yesterday. Now we get to the journey of Maddie on air.
Yes.
See, that's your gimmick. So
I love it.
So, you're Maddie on air now, but how did it all begin? What was the journey for you? What was the moment in your life where, you're all right, you know what, the sports media broadcasting world is for me. And that's typically different. I had a color commentator from URI, and he's doing a couple of things right now. He does URI basketball, and I have someone who did works at Yahoo Sports right now. So I've got two male industry sports media broadcasters, but it's my first female in the industry, and you don't typically hear that coming from the female mindset for the most part. So.
Step aside. Maddie Levine is here. Okay. It wasn't always like that though. College, my senior year, I was pretty unmotivated. I went to URI. Okay.
Hey.
Yeah. You went to URI?
Yeah. Rams,
nice. Let's go. So the culture of URI, and you know that it's pretty easy to get into that party lifestyle, but
we outside.
We outside. So senior year comes around. My mom's like, you got to go to this what is it called? Workshop or job fair.
Yeah.
Job fair. I finally go. There's like 15 minutes left of the job fair. And I run into...
So you're late to the job fair.
I was late to the job fair.
Hungover. Fuck it, Mom. Sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to go. I decided to go. I meet my former radio station there. We hit it off. I get an internship. And from there, I was in the promotions department, but I was fascinated with the on-air side. Fascinated. And I was constantly going to the broadcasting booth and asking questions and just wanting to learn. And luckily, my boss at the time was very welcoming in the fact of just teaching me everything. So I would go into the studio and just record myself and listen back. And if you've ever heard yourself through headphones, you're like, that is the worst fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. And so I had to constantly listen to myself and constantly improve. And I finally got a spot on the station. I think it was like midnight to 7 a.m. It was the most ridiculous time slot. And I worked my way up, got into the morning show, ended up ultimately going to a pop station in Mass. So now I work for Fun 107.
Love it.
On the morning show, and I just love it. But somewhere in that journey, I realized how much I loved martial arts because I do it myself. I'm an amateur kickboxer, and I have fought a bunch of times, and I wanted to figure out a way that I could combine my love for martial arts, my background in broadcasting. So I was like, what better way than to just talk about it all the time?
Yeah.
So I started working for free a lot. Like I would just go to shows and, like give them promotion and talk about them or whatever and do reporting for them. And luckily it worked, or it is working, because over the years I've, really established myself in this community, and I'm still learning and I'm growing and I love it. And I just love talking MMA with anybody that will listen.
No, for sure. That's why you gotta do it up. Just keep talking, practicing. I feel you on the hearing your voice, and you're like, yo, what the hell?
Dude, oh my God. I think I still have like my old reels from when I first started. And I just started when I was like 21. So I was like, hey, it's Maddie. And this is my radio voice. And it was like, it was freaking terrible.
Yeah, I looked back even last year when I first started. I'm like, the quality of that sounds shitty. I had the same equipment. What the hell?
Yeah.
I guess you just learn, with the times. But
get those reps in.
For sure. And you're saying you went to URI. Did you go to URI for broadcasting, or was it something completely different?
No. So I actually went to URI. I think I started out, I wanted to do psychology, and then I was like, this is hard. And then I went to
for a business like everybody does.
Yeah. And then I went to communications. So there you go. I'm a communications major out of URI. Actually using it though. So hey, pretty cool. But when I was in college, I was very just unmotivated. I was a, 19-year-old girl that was way more interested in honestly getting high and drinking. And I figured myself out, luckily at a really good time where I got myself on the right path by senior year. But yeah, if you're in college and you don't know what you want, it's okay. You'll figure it out.
Big facts. And it's kind of crazy how like now you can just get high watching MMA.
I know.
Talk about it on the podcast.
It's nuts. It's like, I'm pretty sure like there was a sponsor last night that was a cannabis sponsor at the show, and it's like you see it all over the place. And I just like, I remember back in the day, like being with my friends, driving around, being worried that we had like, a joint in our car. And now it's like, let's go to the dispensary, and like,
wow.
Nuts.
Wow. So so one of your previous reels, you got brought up in one of your reels that what they thought about smoking weed. So do you think that's obviously you seem like someone who is you condone it. So you think it's like, you think it should be more, talked about more, just use in like the MMA world?
Yeah, I think I do. I think there's a lot of benefits to it. So I got a chance to speak with a UFC fighter, Jillian Robertson, and she's very vocal online about how much she loves to smoke weed. So I had to talk to her about it. But I do think that there's plenty of benefits to it. And I think the mass public is starting to learn that and realize that. And I think that's why it's becoming very mainstream. And there's plenty of athletes out there that advocate for it, from mental health to physical health. I mean, it helps people with their aches and pains, their joints. My mom has a medical card because she is constantly in pain from all of the surgeries that she's had over the years, and weed helps. So I think it's very fair for athletes to advocate for something that helps them and it's natural. Like, can we stop like with all of the weird ass potions that these athletes are getting? Like, if they're comfortable with taking a plant and it makes them feel better, who cares?
Yeah, as right now, is it legal in like UFC and Bellator and
So
Cardi come back?
when I asked Jillian about it, I asked her, I was like, do you like get in trouble sometimes, like with the commission? Like, I don't understand. And I think it depends on the commission. So the UFC has their own commission, Bellator, or the organization in general. So it really depends on who you're fighting for and what they test and what state you're fighting in. So if they're fighting in a state where it's legal, chances are you're good to go. But if the state it's illegal, you should probably be ready to not have that in your system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than likely not. So yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, you know, you're right. Then you made the jump there. You know, so did you have any moments in that journey where you're like, you know what am I doing right now? Like, I'm doing all this stuff
All
for
the fucking
free.
time.
Like
all the time.
Your parents are probably getting on you like, you're really doing that again for free. Like, you need to get a real job. Have you heard that often? Like, go get a real job, Maddie.
Well, yes and no. I was fortunate enough to get that radio job right out of my internship. So there wasn't really a point where I was completely working for free. When I say I was working for free, it was the stuff on the side. So I had my radio gig and I had my job. I was getting my paychecks, and then I was doing stuff extra where I would go to these shows and work for free and report for free and that sort of thing. And there was plenty of moments, and I still have them, where I'm like, this is a waste of time. What am I doing? Like, nobody's respecting me or nobody's taking me seriously. But there was also that little voice inside of me that said, just keep going. Just keep trying. It's going to work. You're going to catch that ceiling and you're going to break it. And it was that little voice that kept me going through it, because there were so many times where I was just like, why? Because when you think about it, it's like, why am I going to work for free? But the benefit of putting yourself out there like that, people respect that. They see your work ethic and they see that you're disciplined and that you're passionate about it. And then you make relationships with people. So when you think that you're not doing the right thing, or you think I always think of that image. I don't know if you've seen it, of that coal miner. He's like mining,
Yep.
and the diamonds
Like
are right
close.
there, and he turns around.
Yeah, it's like he turned around, he made it OnlyFans instead of kept going. he should have kept digging, but
He should have kept digging for diamonds, and now
Yeah.
he's stripping on OnlyFans. Way to go.
I signed up for it. I'm not gonna lie. But you know, saying feeling disrespected, and you know, do you think that comes with the territory being like a female in the sports media world? Is that really a thing? I mean,
Yeah, it definitely is a thing. But I will say this: I have been extremely, extremely fortunate to have worked with very respectable people, very welcoming people, helpful. But there are moments where I have to have my guard up and I have to be confident, not only in where I am, but for what I ask for. So I need to ask for more money or something like that, because I know that my counterparts are making twice as much as me. But what I've learned over the years is that speaking up doesn't make you a bitch, ladies. Speaking up means that you know you deserve something. And if you know that your counterpart is making more than you, say something, because they're not going to change it. So you change it. And once I like really settled into that mindset of like, I know what I deserve, I'm going to get what I deserve, things have been a little better. But, you know, some people don't like that. Oh, well.
So if you don't, you know, if you deal with someone who's not liking that, do you ever feel like like we said, you can speak up, but so if it gets to a point where someone wasn't listening, you don't have no problems getting up, leaving, going to a different company, or just...
Well, that's the hardest part too. And I've dealt with that in the past, where I have been with, you know, working with an organization that was good for me and my brand, or good for me for my exposure, but I wasn't getting the respect that I deserved. And walking away from that was extremely, extremely hard, because on the surface level, everybody thought, wow, look at what Maddie's doing. This is so cool. And that's what you want. You want your followers to love what you're doing. But behind closed doors, I was feeling extremely disrespected and not worthy. And I wasn't proud of the work I was putting forward, because I wasn't getting respect in return. So walking away from it was hard, but it opened so many other doors that I didn't even know were there. And I think that's really the message there is like, even though it's hard, it doesn't mean it's the end.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, to the fighters who, may have those issues, it's kind of like it's like a catapult, like, you're going back a little bit, then it shoots you to the next level where, you wouldn't have got to the next level if you didn't stand up for yourself and kind of step back a little bit to go forward.
It's very easy to get complacent and comfortable. Like, how many people do you know that are comfortable or miserable at their job, but it's that comfort level of, well, I'm getting paid every month, so I'm just going to stay here. Because that's easy, and I get it. And it's so hard to break free from, and that jump is scary because you're literally jumping into the unknown and hoping that you get caught. And sometimes you don't.
Hey, but sometimes, as you said, you got to make that risk in order to come to the next level, because you never know. Like you said, I have a million friends like that. I've seen people in the past where they're just stuck, like you said, doing the same things, but they're not going to be doing what you're doing, on-air radio host, color commentary for, MMA, and, you're having a whole bunch of different interviews and guests nowadays. You're building yourself up, and, having so many guests you've had on the podcast, like your podcast and show, what has like some of your favorite, opportunities you've had in your position, like to interview?
Oh my God.
Some of your favorites are coming to mind.
Like my favorite interview that I've done, or just in general, like experience in general?
Interactions.
I got to go to Dubai.
Fire.
Okay. That is like, can I just like, what?
I'm
outside in Dubai. Okay. That was nuts. That was very early on in my career. And I was fighting for a promotion called Lace Up Promotions. And the CEO, Amir Abdullah, sent me to Dubai because he saw something in me, and he is now a very big wig. He actually was the guy that put together the press conference for Jake Paul's last fight.
Oh, that's fire.
So he's a very busy man.
How'd you get that opportunity?
So I was fighting for Lace Up Promotions, and he knew that I was in broadcasting, and he was putting on the very first Body Jack Promotions fight card in Dubai. And we had a fighter, my husband now, that was going to fight on the card. And Amir says to me, well, we need somebody to help with the broadcast booth. Would you like to do that? And I said, sure. And then I went home and shit myself. And it was really exciting.
Yeah.
I went into it not knowing at all what I was getting myself into, what I was going to say. And mind you, like, these are fighters from around the world with names that only have consonants and very difficult to pronounce. And I have to study these fighters, and I have to be the commentator. It was freaking terrifying, but it was one of the best moments of my life.
You got to jump into it.
I jumped, and it was the best free fall ever.
That's fire.
Thank you, Amir.
And if you forget their name, just Black Trunks. Oh, black Trunks. That was, and Red Trunks.
Yes. And in the blue gloves. Yeah, exactly.
You got I know one thing, especially doing this, I can't imagine being live. I've done a couple of live podcasts, watch NFL games. You just got to fake it. If you fuck up, don't say you fucked up. Just go. Keep going forward.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no one's going to notice. But, so that's a cool experience you had. How about, like, just a guest you could think of that's, like, your favorite guest you've talked to so far?
Ooh, oh, man. I am extremely grateful for everybody that I've spoken to thus far. Ben Askren is probably the one that comes to mind. If you're an MMA fan, you know Ben Askren. If you are a casual MMA fan, you know him as the guy that got knocked out by Jorge Masvidal in about 0.5 seconds.
That's how I know.
Yeah. But he was such a good time to talk to. Great storyteller. And just knowing that he is, a vet of the game was really cool. Jamal Hill was another really fun one. He is now the champ. So that was a really cool experience. He was smoking weed the whole time. we were just shooting the shit. It was really fun.
That's fire.
But yeah, so many cool people.
Are you getting those opportunities just from like your color commentating at MMA, or are they reaching out to you, or are you just cold messaging these people?
So in the beginning, I was cold calling. Let's be real. I was sliding into the DMs of a lot of people. Okay. And I would just be like, hey, let me interview you. I was left on red a lot.
Oh, for sure.
But as I've gone on, I've gotten more and more yeses. And once they realize, like, okay, she's not just some weirdo sitting in a basement that wants to ask me what my favorite color is, I was getting more and more exposure. And now with Fight Bananas, make sure you follow Fight Bananas. I'm getting way more opportunities to interview some of the best. So
how do you feel about those people? How about you slid into Joe the Barber's DM? You're like, hey, what's up, bro? I'm having a podcast coming through my Instagram, and I'll make reels of you and stuff like that. Left on red. You blow up now. You're on UFC. You're doing everybody. Joe the Barber hits you back up. Hey, can I come on your podcast? Yes or no? What are you saying?
I'm saying yes, and I'm putting them on blast.
I'm saying no. Fuck you. Fuck you.
No, you say, hey, Joe, it's nice to see you. Yeah, I'd love to have you on. And then you have them on and you say, hey, remember that time you left me on red? And you let them answer it. You just sit there and you just stare. And you just...
Motherfucker. That actually happened to me before one time. A girl came on the podcast and I kind of did put her on blast. And it was funny. Sometimes... seeing those genuine reactions is so funny.
That's the best.
Yeah,
I love that.
Definitely hilarious. Have you had an awkward moment on cam like that or anything like that where you shock someone?
Oh my God, yeah. I've had so many times where I'm extremely fucking awkward, and I just try not to be. I'm trying to think of them now.
Sometimes it's like unique, and when you just meet someone, it's like, I don't know, like their comedic humor. I don't know like what they're good or what they're not good at saying. I always usually ask people what's their off limits, and everyone's typically like, oh, nothing or whatever. And then we'll get on some crazy conversations, and they make that face, and you're like, you said nothing, motherfucker. So,
yeah, you said everything's on the table. No, like what I've messed up is like their stats or something.
Oh, gotcha.
And I'll say like, oh, so this was your 4th win. How does it feel? And they're like, this is like my 8th win. So... honestly, it's just like, it's the worst when they're just stale and they don't give you anything. So there have been so many times where I'm just asking questions, I'm trying to make it light, and they're just one-worded answers, and it's just so painful.
The worst.
It's so painful.
Yeah, the worst is when you give that setup. You're like, this, that. We did this. Then we're coming here. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
That's it, motherfucker.
Exactly. I was talking to an MMA fighter, and one of his fights, he got into a really, really bad injury where I thought something broke, and I was like, it was his next fight after that incident. And I said to him, so like, how's the recovery been? I know you broke XYZ, whatever. And he's like, I didn't break anything. And I was like, oh, what about during this fight? I didn't break it. What are you talking about? I didn't break anything. I'm like, okay, moving on. Hot subject.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
He's like, next topic.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's kind of funny. So hearing that type of stuff, the awkwardness and things along those lines, I've had a podcast, have like 150 maybe taped at this point. You're in the industry as well. What do you think is some like common mistakes or like misconceptions amongst like trying to start your own podcast or trying to be a sports media broadcaster? Like people just think it's easy. Oh, you go on a mic and you talk. What do you think? I have a whole list, but I'll let you answer since you're the guest right now.
I think some of the misconceptions are that everybody deserves a podcast. Yeah. Sometimes it's just not your thing,
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I know how mainstream it is right now, and literally everyone's doing it. But just because you know how to speak the English language doesn't mean you have content. Like, I think the best podcasters and the best influencers, if you will, have a plan, have a game plan, have a schedule, know what you're going to talk about, and have a good promotion schedule. So know how to promote yourself. Know your audience. I think some podcasts fail when they're kind of all over the place and they don't really have an identity. I think knowing your identity, knowing the population that you're trying to reach, I think those are extremely important if you're even considering a podcast.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely agree with that. Right now, I would say, for me, I'm doing like a lot of sports. I have a lot of athletes on the podcast, building up Rhode Island. I have a lot of, Rhode Island based guests. So, yeah, definitely a lot of athletes, a lot of athletes are reaching out to me and I'm loving that. I love football. So, definitely surrounded by that mostly. And then I have like random generic stuff in there that I like, but it's definitely mostly sports. And, yeah, and I think for me, I think is key is where everyone thinks, oh, like I said, you just go there and do it. No, like you said, you need to know how to promote yourself. You need to know how to do multiple things. Like first starting up at least. Like, yeah, when you get to the point where you can have a team, okay, that's easy. Just go and talk. But if you're just starting up, you need to know how to, unless you're trying to spend a lot of money, you need to know how to edit. You need to know how to make entertaining reels.
Yes.
You need to know how to talk. And especially if you're the host, if you're bringing people on, you need to know how to do multiple things at once. Talk, hear what you're doing, making sure your equipment's working at the same time, hearing what they're saying, talk back to them, be funny or be communicating and where it makes sense. Do all these things at one time is a lot more difficult than people think.
You need to know how to keep the conversation going. I think that's an art in itself. When I first started interviewing people, it was on the radio and it was recording artists, and they do all the interviews, right? And it's very obvious when they are not trying to talk to you because you don't know how to ask questions, or you don't know how to keep the conversation going. Or if you have a guest that's running on a tangent, you need to know how to interject and make them go a different way.
For sure.
So yeah, that's definitely an art in himself. And I think the biggest hurdle, you nailed it, is the technology behind it. When I first started, I started a YouTube channel called The 1-2 Punch, and my biggest hurdle was the freaking video and audio, because I was like not going to settle for just like my iPhone audio or whatever. And
it's key.
Oh my God, it was so fucking annoying though. Like trying to figure it out, and like, yeah, you're not going to be able to just jump into this for sure.
Yeah, definitely not. And that's the huge thing too, is no dead space. When people come on, it's like, dude, it's a podcast. Even 2 seconds of dead space is a lot of seconds.
Yeah.
It's 2 seconds too long.
I work in radio. Silence is a nightmare.
Yeah. And it's like
dead air.
When you say something and someone goes, oh, that's cool. I was like, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to talk so now I can say something when you talk.
Right.
So now when you don't
you
talk.
You go, I go. You go, I go. Come on.
Exactly. That shit is literally the worst. And these are all the common. We're not trying to scare people away, but it's what you need to know if you're trying to get into the business, apparently. I mean, I'm still obviously getting into the business. You're into it more than I am. Just like the promotion side of it. But now you're on Fight Bananas. Mm-hmm. You have access to more people. Who would be your dream interview?
My dream interview. I mean, I would love to sit down with Dana White and pick his brain. A lot of people think they know him, but I think there's a lot to him that we don't. So that would be a big one. But even like outside of the MMA world,
and no limits. Anybody you think that's an inspiration to you? Yeah, I mean, you can answer who would be a dream interview, and at the same time, question 2 to that: who was your inspiration? Why did you even start, and why did you want to get into the business in the first place? Okay,
so first, my dream interview in general. Jason Momoa, how you doing?
Hey.
How you doing? Hey. That'd be an awesome one, Jason. Let's shoot the shit. That'd be cool. Sorry, Ross. My husband is not the biggest fan of Jason Momoa because that is my hall pass. Oh. But whatever. His hall pass is Jennifer Lopez. Okay, we all. Like a slut. Listen,
she's like Jason Momoa.
Shake some ass. Shake some ass, Jason. Come on. But why I got into it, that's a loaded question. And my husband actually asks this all the time because it's important to have role models and to look at others and, kind of model what they do.
Better not say a guy.
But to be honest, I didn't really have many people that I was watching and was like, yes, that's what I want to do.
That's intriguing.
I just knew that I really enjoyed entertainment. I loved broadcasting. I love martial arts. And I thought to myself, I want to do that.
Like, shit, I'm my inspiration.
And I'm my own inspiration, okay? Then I got exposed to the UFC, and I saw women like Megan O'Leary. I saw women like Laura Sanko reporting cage side, and now Laura Sanko making history, being at the booth. And those women really inspired me and showed me that this is possible and that my dreams weren't crazy. And there is space for women in a male-dominated sport, male-dominated genre. And when I started doing it, I didn't really have anybody to look at for. So I just kind of winged it, and I feel like I'm still winging it, but thank God for women like Laura Sanko and Megan O'Leary for making it so they can show me and so many other women that it's possible.
For sure. So you have them two that come to mind now. So you had no one when you first started up. Now that, hopefully, like you said, you get to the UFC, you become a role model for people. Does that ever come across your mind when you're making shows and you're making content? Are you like, do you care what people think of you? Or are you just like, fuck it, whatever comes across the board, I'm going to do. I'm going to say whatever comes to my mind. Or are you now like, damn, I might get canceled? Fuck, like, I don't give a shit.
I wish I could be like, fuck you and your mom. I'm not. I care so much. I care so much about what people think of me and how I'm portrayed. And honestly, you might call that a flaw, especially the industry that I'm in, because you can't really have that sort of weakness. But I think it's human. I think it makes me human. I think it's a very human trait for people to just want to be loved. Yeah. And that's something that I have. And I'm trying very hard to create a space online that is welcoming, that's exciting, that's inviting, and that's fun. Like, definitely. And if you don't like that, okay, then go fuck yourself and your mother, because I'm cool.
Yeah. Fuck you and your mother. She don't give a fuck. But, now you're on Wednesdays. Peel Back is your new podcast on Wednesdays.
I'm so excited. So Fight Bananas is an awesome MMA outlet. And we have decided Wednesday nights at 8 is Maddie's Peel Back. So the Peel Back with Maddie Levine, we're going to have so many different guests, from fighters to people in the MMA world to entertainers, whoever wants to come on and talk about whatever. So I'm really, really excited about that. It just launched on Apple Podcasts. So that's where you can
I gave it a follow this morning.
Yes!
If you ever need a co-host, let me know.
Let's go.
I'll bring the entertainment. And that being said, so like say now you're on your podcast, like I have a podcast, all social medias, all podcast platforms. I am on there. So obviously you're married now, but do you ever get to the point where I'm not sure if you were into this before you met Ross a little bit, but were you ever to that point when you're putting up content, you're like, oh shit, Ross might go back and listen to shit I say. Yeah. So are you like, damn, you might hear that crazy story you said about you're right that one time.
Listen, fuck. I speak for a living. I talk for a living. I've been on radio for the past 9 years. My husband has heard it all. Okay. I talk shit about him on air. I talk about other people on air. I talk about everything. And I like to think that's why he loves me, because I'm an open book. But he knows everything. I don't think there's anything. Now I'm like, oh shit, they're like, you're going to do a deep dive or something and find something weird. I don't think I've been that weird though. I don't know.
Hey, I've said some crazy stories on the air, and sometimes I tell them it's entertainment. Sometimes I'm making shit up just to keep it going. I'm funny. You know what? Let's make the story keep going. And I'm being truthful. Like a lot of times I am being, just over the top just to make it funny, interesting.
Right.
Like, sometimes I say shit. We do like if it comes about, I'll do like improv. We're just doing an improv thing. That's not real. I'm making shit up. Mm-hmm. Just for entertainment purposes, for
like
viral.
A comedian.
Yeah, 100%. And so sometimes, my mom watches pretty much all my podcasts, and she'll be like, "Effie, what the fuck?" And I'm like, it was a joke. It was a joke.
Shout out to mom. Moms are great.
Yeah, for sure. One time, someone hit me up, and they were like, "Did you say you suck dick on camera?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Wait, did I?"
Did I?
I was like, "I don't remember." And I was like, "Wait,
do you?"
What? No, I don't. But I was like, "What podcast are you talking about?" They're like, "This one." I'm like, "What?" I went back and listened to it. And I'm like, "Oh no, I said this guy's a dick." I'm like, I don't. I'm like maybe like speaking fast or something, but
listen, we all get curious, and I understand.
You know what? It was that one time at URI. Goddamn,
it's always URI.
Yeah, goddamn URI. I was in Burn Hall, but yeah. So that was your dream interview. Mm-hmm. So what would be like your dream job? Is that working for Dana White?
My dream job is definitely being on the high level of UFC broadcasting or MMA broadcasting in general. I think for the longest time, I just was like, I need to get to the UFC. I need Dana White to be my boss. I need to be on that platform. But as the years go on and MMA is evolving so quickly, there are so many outlets that I would love to be a part of. Bellator MMA, LFA, CFFC. There's so many great promotions out there that I would just love to bring my flavor and my experience. And I think once I finally get to that point, I think I'm going to be a very happy gal. Yeah,
for sure. No limitation, not holding yourself back, not just like setting UFC as the end all be all. Is you think that I think that can be an issue sometimes where, like you said, where people just have that one job and that's it. But hopefully, I believe in you. And on the podcast, buddy. I think we can make big moves. I think I have a lot of faith in Rhode Island-based athletes, entrepreneurs. I think it's a lot of
Rhode Island
unseen
is
talent.
So talented. Like, I say this all the time. Like, Rhode Island is so small and jam-packed with incredible people, like very interesting people. 100%. So Rhodey, stand up.
Let's get it, baby.
Let's go.
I believe in everybody. If Quiddy can do it, a lot of people can do it from Rhode Island. I believe in, especially with my girl Maddie on air. So I had also a question from a fan.
Let's go.
They said, being female and MMA, they were extremely curious when it's that time in the month. How do you guys go about that? Are you guys just pounding through it?
Interesting.
Is it like
referring to like weigh-ins or referring to training?
I'm actually talking about I guess both. Because the same person brought up that I guess during weigh-in, sometimes you can go overweight if you're on.
Yeah, totally. And
happened, some girls started crying. I don't know who you're referring to.
Yeah. So this is this is a taboo kind of thing for MMA world in general. Nobody wants to talk about, periods.
Hey.
But they happen. And what men and some people don't realize is that weight gain is intense during your period. So for that girl to not make weight because of that, it's a very real thing. Like, you can gain, 10 pounds of water just in your body, and you thought you were at one place and then you're not. So granted, that situation and what they're referring to, I think the girl was a little far off in general, but definitely your time of the month will factor that. And that's why weight cutting for women is very, very difficult.
So do you have to put that into account? Like, they don't give a shit. They're like, if you're over 2 pounds, I don't give a shit.
They don't give a shit. No. And that's why it gets dangerous for women, because a lot of times, now I don't know how deep you want to get into this, but a lot of times women will miss their period during weight cutting because their hormones are all over the place and their hormones don't know what's going on. So it's very common to miss your period while you're weight cutting.
Shit, imagine they just had sex with no condom on. They're probably like, fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck, am I pregnant?
Dude, I've seen girls, we have to take a pregnancy test before you fight. And I've seen girls get positive and they're like, oh shit.
Goddamn.
So that's happened before.
Wow.
But
that's a regulation too. Like, you have to. I didn't know that either.
I mean, you can't fight if you're pregnant.
That's right.
So you gotta make sure.
No, I'm an idiot.
But yeah, it's something that is extremely difficult for women, and that's why it's very important to have a nutritionist who understands how to handle that situation, because when you have somebody that has the science behind it, they're going to take into consideration hormone imbalances, water retention, how many calories you actually need to survive and be at a deficit at the same time. So that's that. But when it comes to just normal training, like, yeah, I'm gonna keep training. Sorry, like, I'm not gonna bleed on you. Like, you're gonna be fine.
I don't know if some girls are probably like, I can't get up from bed, I'm just gonna skip this week, or
I mean, that's another thing. It's like, people don't realize that the severity of periods are different for everybody. Yeah. Like, I, for instance, this might be TMI, I barely feel them. I don't realize that I have them. Whereas I have friends that are incapacitated. They are in bed, dead, like ice on their stomach, like they're done.
Maddie, wake up. And you're like, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very real thing. Like, some girls won't be able to literally function where other girls are totally fine.
Do some girls accept fights based around when their period would be?
Oh my God, no. That's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. No. If in a perfect world, you don't do that. Well, because first of all, we have no control over when the fight cards are, and
that's true.
You're not going to sit there and be like,
Missed
well,
opportunity for nothing.
I'm ovulating in a couple days. That means my period will be, yeah, you know what? I can't take that fight. Like, no, girls want to fight just as much as men do. Men just don't bleed. Okay. Yeah. So that's it.
And you said, the pregnancy test, is that before is that for every level, like even amateurs? Or?
Well, yeah, so I'm an amateur, and that's what we got to do.
Gotcha.
So every fighter, man and woman, has to do a physical before you fight, and you have to pass that physical, and you have to see a doctor, and then just on top of that, women have to go and take a test.
No, gotcha. Now you know, because I did not know that.
The more you know,
new every day. New every single day. So, especially being a female fighter as well. Do like you guys? Is there like an unwritten rule where like you guys like don't hit each other like in like the chest area?
There's no that I'm aware of. There's no hidden rule, but it is always a little funny because like you'll like, especially if you're like sparring your friend or whatever, and you know jab to the boob by accident. It's like hit your boob. Like you just kind of like laugh about it. But I mean, hey, everything's fair game. Everything.
Would it hurt more than like hitting like your arm? Like,
it's not that. I mean, so I'm a kickboxer, so I wear 12-ounce gloves. Like I wear anywhere between like 10 to 14-ounce gloves. I mean, MMA fighters, they wear 4 to 8-ounce gloves. And when you're training, you have gloves on, so it's not like you're taking a bare fist to your tit. Like, and it's like, usually it's a glove in the way.
I just feel like it'll still hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best feeling, but it definitely hurts way more to get actually hit, like in the leg or in your face, or you know.
Do you think there's ever been there's actually an instance in WWE where this happened? Charlotte Flair had implants and it popped mid-match.
Did it really?
It popped mid-match, yeah, and she had to. I don't know if it was mid-match or after the match, but she was gone for like 8 months. She had to get it fixed immediately. But yeah, so is that like? I mean, if someone has. Would like implants be a thing in like MMA? I feel like you were saying from that.
Bro,
yeah, you can look it up. I'm not making this shit up.
I can't even like.
Guys, look it up. I'm not making this shit up. Charlotte Flair, her titty popped.
That's terrible.
Yeah, implant. So
there's a couple fighters that have breast implants. I mean, yeah, we're women. Like we're allowed to be feminine and sexual and feel pretty, whatever the way we want to feel pretty, and then we also get to be a badass in the cage or in the ring or whatever. Like we are the epitome of duality. Like we get to be whatever the fuck we want to be. So if you want to get breast implants, go for it, but I'm probably gonna punch it if we're sparring. Like, you know, it's just one of those things.
No off limits. Yeah. So I mean, that's crazy because there's definitely different rules. I guess I don't know if there was unwritten rules, but apparently it's not. It's all free game for everybody. Yeah. So I know you asked this question on your podcast. I've seen it a couple of times. Victory meals. Do you have like a victory meal after like a specific like podcast? You think I did a good show? Or are you like, I feel proud of myself. I'm gonna treat myself to this.
Sometimes, you know, after a good show or like a long day or something, a beer is usually my victory meal, if you will, or a nice Cosmo because I'm a basic bitch.
Hey.
But it's usually bolognese. Bolognese just feeds the soul, man.
Hey.
I love a good plate of spaghetti and meat sauce, and it's so good.
So Cosmos, beer, you're striking that balance. So like you said, you can be a badass and you can be a girly girl at the same time.
Yes, totally.
Do you think there's any like? Do you think it's like a misconception amongst people where like you can't be both? You have to be either or.
I do. I mean, I grew up my entire life playing softball, so I'm not a lesbian. Okay, but yeah, I think women in sports a lot get faced with that stereotype of like, oh, you fight, or oh, you play softball, so you're gay, right? Like, no.
You have that come across your board often?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember the last time somebody has said that to me, but I've heard many women in my life have to deal with that, and it's just it's annoying. It's immature. I don't have the word for it, but it's just it's annoying. It's just like it's this weird misconception that feminine straight women can't be masculine in any way, if you will. Like they can't be aggressive, they can't be exciting. Like I consider myself a girly girl. I love makeup. I love having my hair done really nicely.
Cosmos.
I love shoes. I love Cosmos, but I also love knocking people out.
Yeah.
So I think it's just one of those silly misconceptions that needs to die.
Yeah, so it is pretty idiotic because I think it's pretty badass how you can do both, and a lot of other females can do both.
Mm-hmm.
And since you and your husband are, I was kind of saving it to the question, but it's on topic to the podcast where you and Ross came on. But I'll ask it now. When you guys are like fighting, do you guys like get into it, you're like, oh, this motherfucker, I'm gonna leg sweep his shit. Then I'm gonna beat the fuck out of him.
So for frame of reference, I'm 5'2". I weigh like 135-ish. My husband's 5'10". He's usually around 210 pounds. Okay? He's not going full out with me. If he did, he would kill me.
Yeah.
But we have sparred, and we do spar, and we do train together, and I get very fucking frustrated. He is a world champion. He's the best at what he does. I am an amateur kickboxer, and I consider myself pretty high leveled. Like, I have some skill. I have some tools in the toolbox. But there have been so many times where I just wanted to fucking...
nutshot him. Nutshot his shit.
Just like, yeah. I have gotten him good a couple times. I have a pretty mean low kick.
I'm pretty sure he's never gonna admit to that. He's gonna be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I let her do that.
I think he will. He's a humble man, but I have a very strong low kick and a really good overhand. And we went too hard one time, and he got upset because he can't really hit me back. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to retaliate the way he would with a regular partner.
Yeah, of course. Well, he must have not got that mad because he brought you on to his Lost of Us Island. I know you watched the last podcast.
Yes.
So who would be your 3 people you would bring with you if The Last of Us happened in real life?
Ooh, I would bring my husband, and not just because he said it, but I would bring my husband because I don't want to be alone. I want to be with my best friend always. So I would bring Ross and 2 other people.
Yeah, 2 other people.
I would bring... God, I don't want to steal his. Okay.
Oh, you're going to say Rogan or you're going to say Jocko?
Yeah, Rogan. I would bring Drew Barrymore because I don't know if you follow her at all, but she's fucking hilarious. And I just want to hang out with her. And I was a huge Charlie's Angels fan as a kid. So Drew Barrymore. And I would bring my cats because I love my cats. They're my children. Yes, I'm that person. Marley and Piper go everywhere with me. So yeah, Ross, Drew Barrymore, and my cats.
I think
we're definitely fucking dying.
It's easy to ransack your shit. I am ransacking your shit quickly. Ross is getting triple teamed. He's out the way. And then we got Drew Barrymore. Get the fuck out the way.
Get out of here, Drew.
That's funny as fuck. So, Dan, I appreciate your time coming through. Any last shout outs you have for anybody watching this, any MMA fighters tuned in, anybody in the sports broadcasting world? Any last words for our fans?
No, listen, I love what I do, and I hope you love what I put out. And you can find me at Maddie on Air on Instagram. Find me on YouTube, on Fight Bananas, the 1-2 Punch. Honestly, if you follow MMA in New England, chances are you know this face, but get to know this face. And you can find me at Maddie on Air, Maddie Levine. And make sure you follow Karate Combat. My husband is the world champion. He's fighting soon, and he's going to get that belt again. So a lot of fun stuff going on. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. We got to do it up. Have me as a guest. Come back on with Ross. Let's keep doing it. Yes. Make more content together. I love it. It's just the first podcast with you and Ross. So I'm always up for game, up to do whatever. And for those, you said you like to drink beer.
I do.
Anybody wants to send you something, you can... celebration beer. What is your favorite beer?
Blue Moon. Blue Moon's my go-to.
With the orange or not the orange?
Orange for sure.
People look at me weird. I'm like, you put an orange in a Blue Moon. It's like, isn't that
that's
fucking
what
common knowledge?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I don't know.
They don't get it. They don't get it.
They probably didn't go to your eye. That's
what it is. That's what it is.
They probably weren't at Burn Hall neither. Shit, me neither. Ratted myself out. Fuck. Make sure you follow your girl, Maddie on Air. Make sure you tune into her on Fight Bananas. Make sure you follow your boy, E.G. Pod Thunder, on all social media. Explore FF. I am going to Coachella next month. I am going to London, Barcelona, and I'm going to go to Dolphin games, obviously, all season long. We got Jalen Ramsey, baby. Get it. I'm excited for this season. I saw you make a couple Buffalo Bills videos. Are you a Buffalo Bills fan, Matt Random?
I'm not. My husband is a Cowboys fan.
I was saying, we had a whole segment about that last time. Yeah. Probably MMA guys probably like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Exactly.
But Dolphins coming up soon. Great season coming up. Make sure you follow your girl. She has a whole bunch of good content. Make sure you give her that follow, like, subscribe. Send us to the moon, baby. Get it.